Today we're gonna make chicken cordon bleu. I pulled some chicken out of the freezer. I have my mallet. I have a fillet knife or a fillet knife if we're across the pond. And I have a container to put my prepped chicken in. So first thing that we are going to do is we are going to make our chicken into what's called Paillards or cutlets. And so if you ever go and get chicken parm and it says like chicken cutlet means that it's either pounded out or cut down. It's a thin piece of chicken. And so that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. There's a couple ways that we can do this. Some people just like pounding the entire piece of chicken out and then going from there. I like when they're really thick like this is to cut them in half, and I'm going to show you how I do that. So save this for stock. Just going to clean up the chicken the way we normally do. Remember, a little bit of fat is okay. We're going to clean up in here where it meets that wing. And then all that we're going to do is cut this in half this way. And so I don't like pounding chicken out too far because it tends to like splinter and not look very nice. So whenever you're doing something like this, you're going to move your chicken to the edge or your meat to the edge of the board. We want to keep our blade parallel to the board. This will help. It will also help being on the front that your knuckles won't hit the table. So you're going to keep your hand like this. And then I like my fingers curled up slightly because I feel like it keeps me from cutting. And then I'm just gonna, I know you can't see my face, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get down low and I'm just going to cut through the middle all the way through the chicken. And then you should have two nice even pieces. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to pound it out. And so all that I do is I grab myself a Ziploc bag, and you can cut it open. If you have a large cutting board, obviously cutting it open would be better. But because obviously my cutting board is really small, and this is the biggest one I have at my house, it doesn't really matter. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with the spiky end. If you have really big spikes, that is for really tough like beef. Do not use the really big spikes on chicken. And I'm going to go from the thick end to the thin end, and my knife making a lot of noise, so I'm moving on another counter. And I'm going to go halfway on the first side. And I'm about halfway. And the goal here is just to get it nice and even so it cooks evenly. See how it's already starting to splinter there? And I'm going to flip it over to the other side. And now I'm going to go a little bit more. Now this one, being the bottom side, is always going to splinter more than the top. For some reason, that top keeps it nice and kind of smooth. Okay, so there we are. We have our two Paillards. And so I'm just going to go through the rest of my chicken breasts. I'm going to make this up. And then when it comes time to fill, I'll meet you back here. Okay, see you in a couple minutes. So all of our chicken is pounded out. I have my cheese, I have my ham, I have some toothpicks. And this is kind of the first stage of getting everything going. Now, I want you to know this is not all my cheese and not all my ham. I just pulled out what I thought I would need. Because if I'm touching chicken, dirty hand, and then I'm touching all of my meats over here, well, I mean, it has to go in the garbage because I am cross-contaminating everything. And if a health inspector walks in, that is exactly what you need to say. Because if you have all of your cheese there and then you're pulling it out with chicken hands and you put it away, well, you cross-contaminated. So on the inside here, we have to figure out about how much ham we're going to need. And probably about a half a piece. That's looking pretty good. And you kind of make it fit. And if you have a little bit extra, I mean, you can throw it in there. It's on the inside, so no one's gonna really see. And then, so we're just gonna take this extra little piece. There we go. Okay, and you don't want it to come out exactly to the edges, and because you need a place for it to, to kind of flap over and end. So when you roll anything, any kind of meat, you always start with the thin end and end with the thick end, so you have a nice flat edge. So whether it's a roulade or whatever you're doing. And then all we're gonna do is take a piece of cheese and put it in. There we go. And now what we're gonna do is we are going to, and I'm not gonna season the inside because the ham is there and ham has a lot of salt in it. I will season the outside. So I'm going to start from this end and I'm just gonna roll it up. Now there's two thoughts on doing this. So the two thoughts are, this one, you just roll it up, you stick it with toothpick so it holds, and then you bread it and you fry it. The other method is to take this and like right here and then put it in a piece of plastic wrap and then put it in the freezer for like 15 minutes. And that will stop anything from leaking out. Things still tend to leak out anyway. Right here at the flap, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put one toothpick here and I'm going to put one toothpick here. Now, after the breading process and after we fry them, I'm gonna take the toothpicks out, okay? So now, again, we're just gonna roll this up. And if you don't quite like the look of it, that's okay, because remember, it's still gonna get breaded. And you can see how, actually, I guess I did that wrong. When, I'm going to roll this towards this edge. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it up this way. There we go. That's what I want. So now I have that nice edge right there. And then toothpick and toothpick. Okay, I'll see you in a couple minutes when I'm done. So at this point, I have my chicken, my Cordon Bleu that I rolled, and I have some extra Paillard or chicken cutlets, whatever you want to call them. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the standard breading procedure. I have my flour, my my eggs, and my breadcrumbs, and I'm going to use panko breadcrumbs. One, because it's what they had at the store, and two, I like the texture of them. They give it a bigger kind of texture. The finer ones are also good. It just depends on what you want. And then so I'm going to do, it really depends, or I mean, it's really important that you get the order correct. So growing up, my mother just used to use egg wash and breadcrumbs, and that's how she would bread things. But the flour adds a nicer texture to it as well. And now I pre-seasoned all this chicken, so I just use salt on it. And so I don't like to season my flour because I feel like you're always throwing seasonings away. So I season my meat and then I go through the process and then we move on. So I'm gonna take one. And if you notice how I changed how I use the toothpicks, and I went into the flap and then out like the body of it, and that should hold it pretty well. And I don't know why I didn't think about this, because this is how I also do rouladen, or I tie rouladen. So I'm gonna put into the flour first. I'm gonna try and do, I mean, they're both gonna be dirty hands, but this is going to be flour and egg, and this hand is going to be egg and breadcrumb, and that will keep things a little bit cleaner. Okay, so I'm just gonna roll it, get the extra off, and this is where it gets really hard to keep your hands like clean. And sometimes it's just, you need to rinse off your hands periodically. Now I like to grab a handful of breadcrumbs here, and then I just bury it. And you see, I'm just gonna go in with both hands. And basically at this point, what's gonna happen is you just kind of like press them in. And there we go. And then I'm going to take this and put this here. Now what's probably going to happen is they're going to get a little wet, and so I'll re-roll them right before I fry them. I'll see you right before we fry. Okay, so I did all of the cordon bleu. They are all breaded. And I went back to my original. I did the flour and egg with this hand, and I did the breadcrumbs with this hand. And you can see the difference. And this hand stays somewhat clean. So I went from here to here, and then here to here. I just dropped it in and then covered it up. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the Paillard. And so basically, because I have extra of this, we're just gonna use this for lunches, for like salads. And so, I mean, obviously you could make a chicken parm out of this. Try and get all the excess off, and then just drop it in. And then, see, at this point, I'm not touching the breadcrumbs yet. And then when I flip it over, then I'll go in with the other hand. There we go. Gonna need more breadcrumbs in a second. I will say that you do get better coverage with regular breadcrumbs, but you get better texture from panko breadcrumbs. And remember, we are still going to probably put these back into breadcrumbs before we put it in the fryer. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, so this is my fryer, and it is, you can't see it, but it has a bulb on the front that glows green when it is ready. I have a little basket inside. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna fry these off a couple at a time, probably 2 at a time, because the basket is really small. And then we're gonna put it on the sheet pan, and then we're gonna finish it in the oven. And because we are finishing it in the oven, we are not looking for cooked all the way through. So at the moment, we are not looking for 165. We are looking for just GBD. And then once they are GBD, then we will put them into the oven and finish the cooking process. And then we will be looking for 165 degrees. So I'm gonna put 2 in, that fits pretty well. I'm gonna lower it. I'm gonna put the lid down, and once they're GBD, we'll pull them out. Okay, so it's been a couple minutes, and they are GBD, golden brown and delicious. I'm gonna grab a set of tongs, and I am going to just take them out and just put them on my sheet pan to put them in the oven. And now when you pull them out, this is when you see where the toothpicks are. Give them a little twist like this, and then you can pull them out. Because the crust is set, you don't have to worry about them unraveling anymore, okay? So I'm gonna finish these off, and I'll see you when I do the Paillards. So at this point, our chicken cordon bleu are done. There's a couple more toothpicks I need to take out, but we are ready to do the Paillards, or the chicken cutlets. And so I actually added a little bit more oil to this because it needed it. I waited for it to come back to temperature because it's super important that you aren't adding things to the fryer when the temperature hasn't rebounded yet. And now, unfortunately, I can only do these 1 at a time because they're so big. And I'm going to just drop this in rather than use the basket because I don't want it to get stuck to the basket. When you drop something in a fryer, you aren't really dropping it. You are placing it without getting your hands in the oil. Start towards you and let it fall away from you. And that is the safest way. So if it does splash, it splashes backwards, not towards you. I'll see you in a couple minutes. It's been about 3 to 4 minutes and the chicken cutlet is done. See how it is GBD. And actually, because this one is not rolled, I bet you it's super close to being done, if not done. And then all I'm gonna do is throw it on this sheet pan to make sure that it's done, and then do the rest. I'm going to take my chicken cordon bleu and put it in the oven until the internal temperature reaches 165. My oven is set to 350 degrees, just like my fryer. So the chicken cordon bleu just came out of the oven, and so I'm just going to do a little plate up. Unfortunately, I'm not going to pipe the potatoes. And if you're like, why, chef, why aren't you piping the potatoes? I'm not piping the potatoes because it's basically 7:30 and my family has not eaten yet. So try and make them as nice as possible. That does not mean that you're allowed to not pipe them on a practical. This is for my family. It's not for a practical. If this was a restaurant, it would be, you would also have to do the same. These are some extra green beans from my blanching green beans video with some garlic already on them. All I had to do was heat them up in the microwave. And the potatoes, you guessed it, are from the potato video. Now, let me face it that way so you can see it. So I'm doing the 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then I have my sauce, which is from the practical sauce video where I use Dijon instead of Parmesan. And so I'm just going to take a little bit, put it underneath, because what's going to happen is when I set it down, it's going to push it out a little bit more. And then all that I need to do is take my chicken cordon bleu and then just set it right down, just like that. And so, I mean, if you want to, you could take some more parsley and you could do, you could do whatever kind of garnish you wanted to on that. But that is basically it. And so this is more home style, obviously. But if you went to some mom and pop place, then it might also look like this. And if you want to know what it looks like on the inside, we can just cut this open. So normally you don't cut them open and plate them like that, but so you can see that the chicken, it's fibrous, but it's still super juicy. It's just done. We have our ham and we have our cheese in there, and that's basically it. That looks actually pretty gorgeous. And I had basically no cheese seepage. So doing it in the plastic wrap is great and all, but if you have success without the cheese all leaking out, then there's no reason to do it. Okay, I'll see you in class.